It is January 20th, 2008.
Okay.
It is a freezing cold Sunday evening. And if you are a sports fan, your eyes are probably just absolutely glued to the television.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
You are watching the New York Giants take on the Green Bay Packers.
Right, the NFC Championship game up at Lambeau Field.
Exactly. And it's Brett Favre's last game as a Packer. So, the whole world is basically watching football.
It was a massive night for sports, just a cultural event. And yet, if you happen to have the remote and you flipped away from the game to a cable channel that honestly at the time was really only known for airing old movies.
Right, American movie classics, AMC.
AMC. If you flipped over, you would have seen something deeply, deeply confusing.
You would have seen a pair of beige trousers.
Just flying through the air.
Just flying through the air in slow motion against this incredibly bright blue desert sky.
It is such a striking image.
And then an RV crashing into a ditch, driven by a middle-aged man in his tighty-whities wearing a gas mask.
And just like that, with almost no fanfare and very few viewers, Breaking Bad was born.
So welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are unpacking the pilot episode of what many consider to be the greatest television drama of all time.
Or at least certainly the most influential of the modern era.
Absolutely. But we aren't just going to recount the plot of how Walter White broke bad. We have a massive stack of source material here.
Yes, we do.
We have production notes, we have casting sheets, plot summaries, reception history, critical essays, all regarding this specific premiere episode.
Sometimes titled Breaking Bad on the home media releases, actually.
Right. So our mission today is to tear apart the mechanics of how this specific episode was made, how it launched a historic series by transforming a mild-mannered teacher into a criminal mastermind.
And honestly, when you look at the history of this specific hour of television, it is a miracle it ever made it to air.
It really is.
The story of the pilot is a story of rejection, bad auditions, financial shortcuts, and a creator who fundamentally wanted to break the rules of television.
We have so much to cover. We are going to look at the Mr. Chips to Scarface philosophy, the casting struggles. I mean, wait until you hear who they wanted before Bryan Cranston.
The what-ifs are incredible.
They really are. And we'll look at the specific science, both chemical and narrative, that made this episode work.
It is a fascinating case study for anyone listening who loves the craft of television. Because if you change one variable, if they film in California instead of New Mexico, or if the studio gets their way on casting, we're talking about a completely different show.
A show that probably would have been canceled after 6 episodes.
Without a doubt.
So let us start with the vision.
Yeah.
Because before you have the RV and the meth, you have an idea. And according to the notes we have here, Vince Gilligan's idea was actually a joke.
It is true. It is one of those great origin stories that sounds totally tight, but it isn't.
Right.
Vince Gilligan was talking to a fellow writer, Thomas Schnauz. They had worked together previously on The X-Files.
Which is a crucial connection, by the way. We will definitely get to that later.
Oh, absolutely pivotal.
Yeah.
But at this particular moment in time, they are just two unemployed writers. They are chatting on the phone, commiserating about how hard it is to find work.
Just the classic Hollywood struggle.
Exactly. How the industry is grinding them down, and they started joking about their plan B.
The nuclear option.
Right. Schnauz cracks a joke that the only solution to their financial problems is to buy an RV, drive it into the woods, and put a meth lab in the back.
It is that dark, cynical humor you have when you are just desperate, like, well, we can always sell drugs.
Precisely. But while Schnauz was joking, something actually clicked for Gilligan. He hung up the phone, but the image stayed with him.
A desperate man.
A mobile lab. A life of crime born out of sheer financial necessity. He realized that this wasn't just a funny visual. It was a tragedy waiting to be written.
But here's where it gets really interesting for me. Taking a regular guy and making him a criminal isn't entirely new.
No, it's been done.
But Gilligan had a specific structural goal that went completely against everything television stood for in 2007.
This is the Mr. Chips to Scarface concept. And to understand why this was so revolutionary, you have to look at the landscape of television before 2008.
We are talking about the era of the procedural.
Right. Television was built on a machine called stasis. The economic model of TV back then was syndication.
You want to sell 100 episodes to a network so they can air them in literally any order.
Exactly. And for that to work, the characters cannot fundamentally change.
Homer Simpson has to be dumb every single week. Dr. House has to be a curmudgeon every week.
Yes. If they learn a lesson and actually change their personality, the whole show breaks. You reset the status quo at the end of every hour.
But Gilligan walked into these pitch meetings and basically said, I want to do the exact opposite.
He explicitly stated, that his goal was a fundamental drive toward change. He didn't want to sustain Walter White. He wanted to destroy him.
He wanted to take Mr. Chips, the beloved, mild-mannered school teacher archetype, and slowly morph him into Scarface, a ruthless gangster.
And that terrified executives. You are pitching a show where, by design, the audience is supposed to stop liking the protagonist.
Right.
You are promising them that the hero will become the villain. That is an incredibly hard sell.
It is a massive risk, and to pull that off, you need an actor who can straddle that line. You need someone who can be Mr. Chips and Scarface.
And this brings us to the what-ifs of the casting process. Because looking at the casting notes you have there, the studio had a very different idea of who Walter White should be.
Oh, this list is wild. So we all know Bryan Cranston is the guy. He is the one who knocks. But in 2007, he was Hal.
He was the dad from Malcolm in the Middle.
Yes.
He was the roller skating, speed walking, high-pitched, screaming dad.
It is hard to unsee that once you know it. And the executives at AMC couldn't unsee it either. They were reportedly very wary of him.
They saw a comedic actor. They did not see a meth kingpin.
So naturally, they offered the role to movie stars.
Of course they did.
The notes say the role was actually offered to John Cusack and Matthew Broderick first.
Can you imagine?
Lord, I really can't. Matthew Broderick? Ferris Bueller as Walter White?
It changes the entire DNA of the show.
Completely.
If you cast Broderick, it becomes a dark comedy. It becomes quirky. Broderick has this natural boyish charm. Even when he is sad, he is sort of adorable.
And what about Cusack?
Cusack is too cool.
Yeah, he is.
Even when he plays a loser, he has that intense boombox over the head energy. You root for him to get the girl. You don't look at John Cusack and see a man who has completely evaporated into beige mediocrity.
Beige. That is the key word. Walter White in the pilot isn't cool. He isn't charming. He is pathetic.
And that is exactly why Gilligan fought so hard for Cranston. He knew Cranston could do pathetic, but he also knew he could do dangerous.
And he knew this because of their previous work together.
Yes, the X-Files connection we mentioned earlier.
The episode titled Drive.
Season 6, Gilligan wrote the episode. Cranston played a character named Patrick Crump.
Now, this is a deep cut for sure, but it is essential to the story of this pilot.
It is. In that episode, Crump is a virulent anti-Semite. He kidnaps Fox Mulder. He is just entirely nasty.
So he is a villain.
On paper, yes.
Yeah.
But he is also dying. He has a condition where the pressure in his head builds up unless he keeps moving west at a high speed.
Oh, wow.
He is in excruciating pain. And Gilligan watched Cranston play this role, a role that should be purely hateable, and realized that Cranston could make the audience feel sorry for him.
It is the duality. You have to be loathsome and sympathetic at the exact same time.
Exactly. Gilligan noted that the role required someone who could project that specific duality. He needed an actor who could hold a gun to someone's head, and you still kind of want to give him a hug.
So he actually showed the executives that episode.
He did. He sat them down, played Drive, and essentially said, forget Hal, look at the eyes, look at this.
And that was the turning point. They were convinced.
Thankfully, both movie stars had turned it down anyway, so Cranston got the part.
But getting the role was just step one. Cranston didn't just show up and read the lines. The prep work for the pilot was intense.
It was method acting before he even got to the set. He met with actual chemistry teachers.
To learn the subject.
Right. He wanted to know how to hold the beakers, how to light the burners. He didn't want to look like an actor playing a chemist. He wanted to look like a man who had done this every single day for 20 years.
But the physical transformation is what really sells it for me. I think we forget because later in the show, he looks so fierce with the goatee and the bald head.
Or the Heisenberg look.
But in the pilot, he looks incredibly soft.
He actually gained weight for the pilot. 15 pounds.
Which is the opposite of what you would expect for a cancer patient role.
True. But remember, at the start of the episode, he doesn't know he has cancer yet. He is just a middle-aged man who has given up.
Right.
Cranston wanted to reflect that internal decline externally. He wanted a doughy waistline.
And the hair, too.
He dyed his hair brown to hide his natural red highlights.
Yeah.
He wanted to strip away any vibrancy. He wanted to look like he was fading into the wallpaper. He practically disappears when he stands next to a beige wall.
So we have our Walt. But a chemistry teacher talking to himself is just a monologue. We need a partner.
We need Jesse Pinkman.
The other half of the equation. And the struggle to cast Jesse was just as difficult, if not more so.
The audition process was wild.
The list of people who auditioned is basically a who's who of mid-2000s TV actors. We have Reed, Scott Colin Hanks, Penn Badgley.
Penn Badgley is the one that really sticks out to me, the guy from Gossip Girl and later You.
If you cast Penn Badgley, Jesse becomes smart. Or at least sharp and calculating.
Right. Penn Badgley projects intelligence, he projects calculation. Jesse Pinkman needs to be frantic. He needs to be a little bit, well, not bright.
Street smart in a way, but a mess.
And Aaron Paul was a mess.
Aaron Paul describes his own audition as awful.
He was desperate for work, he was tense, and he felt like he just stumbled through the whole thing.
But that desperation actually worked.
It worked perfectly for Gilligan. He saw that frantic, cornered animal energy. But it did not work for Sony Pictures Television.
What was their beef with Aaron Paul?
They said he didn't look like a meth dealer. They argued he was too pretty.
The classic Hollywood problem. He's too handsome to be a criminal.
Basically. They refused to hire him initially. They wanted someone who looked grittier, or maybe just different. But Gilligan and the casting director, Don Steinberg, saw something.
They dug their heels in. The notes say Gilligan actually gave them an ultimatum.
He did. He told the studio, I am not making the show if Aaron Paul is not picked for the role.
That is a massive bluff for a writer on an unproven pilot. If they call that bluff, the show is dead before it even starts.
It shows how clear Gilligan's vision was. He knew that the chemistry between Cranston and Paul was the engine. If that engine didn't fire, the car simply wouldn't move.
So they have the cast. They have Walt and Jesse. Now they need the setting. And this is another huge what if. Because the script was not originally written for Albuquerque.
No. If you look at the original draft, it is set in Riverside, California.
The Inland Empire. Which makes total sense for a meth story.
It does. It fits the stereotype perfectly.
Yeah.
But Sony came to Gilligan and said, hey, New Mexico is offering a favorable financial tax incentive.
A 25% rebate.
Yes.
Right.
So they suggested Albuquerque purely to save money.
So is it completely financial reality?
100%. They moved the production to Albuquerque just for the tax break.
Yeah.
But this is where serendipity comes in, because that financial decision changed the entire visual identity of the pilot and the series.
How so?
Think about it. If you shoot in Riverside, you are shooting in suburbs.
Yeah.
You are shooting in traffic. It is claustrophobic.
Yeah.
But Albuquerque gives you the Sandia Mountains. You have these massive, wide open skies. You have the desert mesas.
It turned it into a Western.
Exactly. It
Yeah.
gave the show a mythic quality. You see the RV isolated in this vast, empty landscape, and it emphasizes how alone these characters truly are. You simply cannot get that shot in Riverside.
It is amazing how a tax break created one of the most iconic visual styles in television history.
And it also influenced the casting of the supporting roles. We have to talk about Dean Norris, who plays Hank Schrader.
The authoritative DEA brother-in-law.
Dean Norris is a fantastic actor.
Yeah.
But he brought up a really interesting point about typecasting in his notes. He said he is always cast as a cop or a military guy because he has a specific authoritative law enforcement type look.
He definitely has the cop face.
He does? He noted that he was often typecast in those roles before getting a chance to really act. Usually he gets the part before he even opens his mouth.
But for Breaking Bad, Gilligan actually wanted to flesh out the character. He didn't want Hank to just be a two-dimensional prop.
Gilligan even consulted with an actual DEA agent to give Norris details on how these guys actually talk and operate.
So we have the cast, the location, the RV. Filming starts.
Production dates were March 6th, 2007 to March 21st, 2007.
So roughly 2 weeks to shoot this thing. That is a very tight schedule for something this complex.
Extremely tight.
Let us dive right into the narrative itself then. We have set the stage. Now let us look at the story. The episode is titled Pilot.
But as we mentioned, some home media releases call it Breaking Bad, which is a Southern colloquialism. To break bad means to raise hell or to turn against the law.
And we start by establishing Walter's status quo. And man, is it bleak.
It is a masterclass in humiliation. We don't just see that Walt is bored, we see that he is fundamentally disrespected.
He is a high school chemistry teacher, clearly overqualified, teaching students who are quite literally sleeping in his class.
And then he goes to his second job.
The car wash.
And this is where the visual storytelling really kicks in. He isn't just working at the register. He is down on his knees, scrubbing tires.
And his boss, Bogdan Wolinets.
The man with the eyebrows that defy gravity.
He is so condescending, exploring that scene where he forces Walt to go back out and scrub, even though Walt's supposed to be done for the day. And then Walt actually collapses.
Right, and lashes out at Bogdan. But before that, the ultimate indignity is when Walt sees his own students at the car wash.
Chad. The student who was being a jerk in class earlier, he sees his teacher wiping down his car. He takes a picture.
It strips Walt of every single ounce of authority he has left in the world.
We also see the family dynamic. He has a pregnant wife, Skylar, and a son, Walter Jr., who has cerebral palsy.
The house is cramped. The money is tight. The water heater is broken.
It establishes the pressure cooker perfectly. And then the lid blows off. The diagnosis.
Inoperable lung cancer. 2 years to live. That is the pivotal moment.
And I love how they film the scene. Walt isn't even listening to the doctor. He is staring at a mustard stain on the doctor's lapel.
It is such a profoundly human detail. Your brain shuts down the trauma and focuses on the trivial.
But the key here is Walt's reaction. Instead of telling his family immediately, he internalizes it.
He keeps it a secret.
Why do you think that is based on the character notes?
Control. Walt is a man who feels he has lost control of every aspect of his life. If he tells his family, he becomes the victim. He becomes the dying man who needs pity. He hates that. He wants to solve the problem.
And the solution literally falls into his lap during the turning point of the episode, the ride-along with Hank.
Again, connected to the Mr. Chips life. He is only there because his brother-in-law invited him. Hank is showing off a drug bust on the local news.
Right, Hank shows off the $700,000 confiscated, and Walt sees that money on the TV. You can see the wheels turning. I need money. I know chemistry.
So Walt joins a ride-along. He sits in the car, and he sees a neighbor's window open and a body fall out.
Fleeing a meth lab bust.
Yeah.
And it is Jesse Pinkman.
His former student. And this is the catalyst for everything. He doesn't turn him in. He tracks him down.
The proposal scene is fascinating because it is not a request. It is straight-up blackmail.
You know the business. I know the chemistry. It is completely transactional. Walt is already using leverage. He tells Jesse, either you help me cook or I turn you in.
That is not Mr. Chips. That is already a shade of Scarface.
Exactly. He is using his authority as a former teacher and his knowledge of the crime to force a kid into a felony partnership.
So they acquire the RV. Walt steals chemistry supplies from the high school. They drive out into the desert. And this is where we get to the science of the cook.
This is where the show establishes its competence porn. We love watching people be really good at things, and Walt is very good at chemistry.
Chemistry as a superpower.
Jesse is absolutely stunned by the quality. He is used to cooking in a bathtub with chili powder. Walt is measuring crystals. He is talking about chiral centers.
And the product of the crystal meth is unusually pure, glass grade. This establishes Walt's value immediately. He isn't just a warm body, he is a maestro.
But the art eventually has to meet the street. The conflict arises when Jesse tries to sell to Krazy-8 Molina.
But he runs into Emilio Koyama instead, the guy who got busted during the ride-along.
Emilio thinks Jesse snitched on him. They force Jesse to take them to the cook. The confrontation moves to the RV.
And Emilio recognizes Walt. Hey, you were in the car with the DEA.
And suddenly the comedy is entirely gone. It is a matter of life or death. They hold Walt at gunpoint.
This is the climax, and this is where Walt uses his wits. He knows he can't outshoot them, he can't outfight them, he has to outthink them.
He offers to teach them his recipe. He appeals directly to their greed.
They go inside the RV, and Emilio, being a careless criminal, tosses a lit cigarette out the window.
That is the chaos factor. It starts a brush fire outside, the clock is ticking, but inside Walt is mixing chemicals.
The phosphine gas trick.
Yes, he grabs the red phosphorus.
Right. He synthesizes phosphine gas using red phosphorus and the hot water mixture.
The resulting explosion in toxic gas is deadly.
I have read a bit about this scene. Is the science actually accurate?
Mostly yes. Red phosphorus reacting with moisture and heat can create phosphine gas, which is incredibly toxic. It attacks the respiratory system violently.
It is chemical warfare.
It is. Think about that. In his very first criminal act, he doesn't just punch someone. He synthesizes a nerve agent and asphyxiates Emilio and Krazy-8.
Allowing Walt to escape the RV, it is brutal, and it works. The men go down, Walt escapes, he puts the gas mask on Jesse, and then he crashes the RV.
And now we are caught up to the opening scene of the episode. The resolution begins.
The false alarm.
Walt crashes the RV into a ditch. He stumbles out. He is in his underwear. He hears sirens approaching.
Believing the police are coming, he records a video message to his family. The famous opening, shown in medias res.
He grabs the camcorder. To my wife, Skylar, to my son, Walter. No matter what it may look like, I only had you in my heart.
It is a heartbreaking confession. He thinks it is all over. And then he decides to go out on his own terms. The suicide attempt.
He grabs a gun. He puts the gun under his chin. He pulls the trigger.
And the gun fails. He is unsuccessful.
He fumbles with it. He is trying to kill himself. And while he is fumbling, the sirens get louder. He looks up expecting a squad car.
The twist. The sirens aren't police. They are fire trucks responding to the brush fire caused by the cigarette.
It is the ultimate cosmic joke. He prepared for death, he confessed his sins, he tried to commit suicide, and nobody is actually coming for him.
He is spared by a technicality and a brush fire. He stands there, gun in hand, watching the fire trucks drive away.
He is alive.
So what does he do? Returning to normalcy, he goes home.
And this resolution is crucial. He returns to his normal life. He crawls into bed with Skylar.
But he is a completely changed man.
Yes. The change is immediate. He meets Skylar's mundane queries, not with fear, with new sexual vigor.
It catches Skylar entirely off guard. She literally asks, Walt, is that you?
Emphasizing the very start of his transformation, the thematic question of the episode. Walt, is that you?
And the answer is no. The old Walt, the beige Walt, died in the desert. This is a man who just killed 2 people, survived a suicide attempt, and walked away. He feels invincible.
It is the adrenaline. He feels alive for the first time in years. The cancer didn't kill him. The drug dealers didn't kill him. He realizes he has actual power.
So the episode airs, the credits roll. Let us move to Section 8, Reception and Legacy. What was the critical response to this masterpiece?
The reviews were extremely strong. USA Today calls Cranston riveting.
The AV Club had a great review, too.
They called the performance mesmerizing and nihilistic. That word nihilistic is perfect. It captured the bleakness of the show perfectly.
The Philadelphia Inquirer praised the unpredictability of the plot, so the critics were totally on board. But what about the rating?
The ratings were a flop initially.
The football game we talked about at the top of the show.
The football game absolutely crushed them. Vince Gilligan recalled viewership being under 1 million due to that game airing simultaneously.
But fact check, later reports showed it actually pulled 1.41 million viewers.
Which is still fairly low. It was not an overnight sensation. It was a slow, word-of-mouth builder.
But the industry noticed right away. The awards started rolling in immediately.
The pilot won 2 Emmys right out of the gate. Outstanding lead actor for Bryan Cranston.
Which is incredibly rare to win for the very first episode.
It speaks to the undeniable power of the performance. And it also won Outstanding Single-Camera Picture Editing.
Vince Gilligan also won a Writers Guild of America award for this specific episode.
So the quality was undeniable, even if the audience took a little while to catch up.
So let us summarize and wrap this up. We have looked at how a mix of financial incentive, filming in New Mexico, risky casting with Cranston and Paul, and a highly scientific approach to crime created a perfect pilot episode.
It really is the perfect structural loop. The learner takeaway here is that the episode wasn't just about drugs. It was a profound character study of a man waking up via a nightmare scenario.
And here is a provocative closing thought to leave you with. We talk about the Mr. Chips to Scarface journey as a slow burn over many seasons.
That is the standard reading of the show.
But consider this. Gilligan's goal was to turn him into Scarface. And look at how quickly Walt utilized chemical warfare and blackmail in just the first hour.
All in the first few days of his break.
So I have to ask you, the listener, to ponder this. Was Walt effectively Scarface all along, just waiting for an excuse to let it out?
Did the cancer change him, or did it merely reveal him?
Maybe he was never Ginch at all. He was just holding his breath. We encourage you to go back and rewatch the pilot with these production secrets in mind.
Watch Cranston's eyes when he's looking at that mustard stain. See the show that almost wasn't.
Thank you for diving deep with us today. We will see you on the next one.
Goodbye.